आज हमारे बीच अध्यक्ष के रूप में उपस्थित है प्रोफेसर भूषण भावे सर। प्रोफेसर भूषण भावे सर विद्या प्रबोधिनी महाविद्यालय में प्राचार्य के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। आपने गोवा विश्वविद्यालय से सामाजिक भाषा विज्ञान और तुलनात्मक अध्ययन इस विषय पर पीएचडी की उपाधि प्राप्त की है। वर्तमान दौर में वे एक उत्कृष्ट लेखक और अनुवादक के रूप में विख्यात हैं। आपने खनन, रसायन विज्ञान और औषधि उद्योग, जीव विज्ञान, भू विज्ञान, जल प्रबंधन आदि क्षेत्रों में कई तकनीकी लिपियों का अनुवाद किया है। साहित्य के अलावा वैज्ञानिक और तकनीकी अनुवाद के क्षेत्र में भी आपने बहुमूल्य योगदान दिया है। गोवा कोंकणी अकादमी, वैज्ञानिक और तकनीकी शब्दावली आयोग नई दिल्ली, गोवा राज्य प्रदूषण नियंत्रण बोर्ड, राजभाषा निदेशालय गोवा सरकार आदि जैसी प्रतिष्ठित संस्थानों के लिए आप एक मान्यता प्राप्त अनुवादक हैं। आपके कई लेख और अनुदित कृतियां विभिन्न पत्रिकाओं में प्रकाशित हो चुके हैं। आपको डॉक्टर TMA पे फाउंडेशन द्वारा सर्वश्रेष्ठ कोंकणी पुस्तक पुरस्कार और सन 2007 में बाटोली पुस्तक के लिए मणिपाल द्वारा सम्मानित किया गया है। सर, पुनः एक बार आपका स्वागत है। आज के हमारी प्रथम वक्ता हैं सुचिता सिंह। फिलहाल वो मंच पर उपस्थित नहीं है, किसी कारणवश वो जल्द ही यहाँ पर आ जाएंगी। उनका परिचय कुछ इस प्रकार से है। उन्होंने जो प्रपत्र बनाया है उनके सह लेखक है प्रोफेसर उदय नारायण सिंह। बहुमुखी प्रतिभा की धनी सुचिता सिंह, आपने व्यापक धरातल पर कोशकार के रूप में काम किया है। आप राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशन के शब्दकोश इकाई की समन्वयक थी। साथ ही आपने CIIL और लॉन्गमैन को 6 द्विभाषी शब्दकोशों का निर्माण करने में सहायता की है। लेक्सिकल बिल्ड एंड वैलिडेशन प्रोजेक्ट, बांग्ला ऑनलाइन प्रोजेक्ट, अनुसारक मशीन अनुवाद प्रणाली के विकास पर एकीकृत परियोजना, बांग्ला भाषा मंदाकिनी परियोजना आदि परियोजनाओं में संयोजक, सलाहकार और सदस्य की भूमिका आपने निभाई है। आपने ऑर्गेनाइज अवेक नामक लोकप्रिय पुस्तकों की 10 खंड की श्रृंखला का सहलेखन किया है, जिसे रेनोमी हाउस ऑफ पब्लिकेशन नई दिल्ली द्वारा प्रकाशित किया गया। उन्होंने अंग्रेजी बंगाली शब्दकोश के साथ साथ अंग्रेजी हिंदी शब्दकोश का सह संपादन किया है, जिसका प्रकाशन 2010 में पियर्सन नई दिल्ली द्वारा करवाया गया। आज के हमारी दूसरी वक्ता हैं डॉक्टर अदिति बुडकुले मैम। डॉक्टर अदिति बुडकुले अंग्रेजी, संस्कृत, हिंदी, मराठी और कोंकणी भाषाओं में निपुण एक बहुभाषी अनुवादक हैं। आपने विज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी शब्दावली आयोग में संस्कृत विशेषज्ञ के रूप में काम किया है। आपकी रुचि अनुवाद और शब्द निर्माण में है। आपने महाराष्ट्र स्वास्थ्य विज्ञान विश्वविद्यालय नासिक से आयुर्वेद में MD और तिलक महाराष्ट्र विश्वविद्यालय से संस्कृत में स्नातकोत्तर की शिक्षा प्राप्त की है। वर्तमान में आप गोवा कॉलेज ऑफ फिजियोथेरेपी, नेचुरोपैथी एंड योगिक साइंस में सहायक प्राध्यापक के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। इस सत्र की अंतिम वक्ता है डॉक्टर पलिया पंडित। डॉक्टर पलिया पंडित डेम्पे महाविद्यालय के अंग्रेजी विभाग में सहायक प्राध्यापक के रूप में कार्यरत है। आपने भाषा और साहित्य में ICT के कार्यान्वयन में विशेषज्ञता हासिल की है। आपके कई शोध आलेख विभिन्न पत्रिकाओं और पुस्तकों में अध्याय के रूप में प्रकाशित हुए हैं। शणै गोयबाब के साहित्य में पाए गए अप्रचलित शब्दों पर गोयबाब यदास्तिक नाम से कोंकणी में प्रकल्प कार्य पूरा किया है। सन 2012 से 2014 तक प्रकाशित होने वाला कोंकणी समाचार पत्र सुना प्रांत में आप सभ्यकार रही हैं। अनुवाद और रचनात्मक लेखन जैसे विषयों पर आधारित कार्यशालाओं तथा व्याख्यानों में आपको वक्ता के रूप में आमंत्रित किया गया है। आज गोवा सरकार के राजभाषा निदेशालय द्वारा साहित्यिक शब्दावली निर्माण परियोजना में भी आप शामिल हैं। आप सभी का पुनः एक बार स्वागत है। अब मैं अध्यक्ष महोदय से निवेदन करता हूं कि वे आगे की कार्यवाही करें।
So thank you for the nice introduction made by our Akshar from Dhempe College, Akbar from Dhempe College. Second day of the National Conference on Translation. And I think the second day has not yet started. I saw the audience was full yesterday. Now many people will be on the way, I feel, and they will join us in a later phase of time. This is the first session of the day, and it will be, we will be dealing with translation with respect to glossaries. Since yesterday, and especially from Professor Udaya Narayan Singh, a great linguist of India and a great translation theorist, we have learnt many, See, Professor Narayan Singh has himself worked in Bangla and his own language, Maithili. Besides that, he has studied almost more than 250 languages of the world. I've been very fortunate to listen to him right from the time when he was in CIIL. He was heading that institution when he was the director there. After that, I'll be also mentioning when he comes all the relations that Goa had with him, especially when I represented for Sahitya Academy for Kokani. And there were many issues, there were many incidences where we came together. I was benefited by the expertise and experience that he had for many years regarding translation, regarding scripts, and many other subjects. So I am feeling proud to be the chair of the session in which Professor Narayan Singh will be presenting paper on behalf of his wife Suchita Singh. We have our other panelists today as they were introduced, Dr. Palia Pandit and Dr. Aditi Budkuley, both young and energetic translators and writers of Kokani and other languages, of course. First of all, let me thank the Directorate of Official Language, DOL, for their initiative to conduct such a type of a workshop for 2 days. A conference, a workshop, whatever we say. And this is the need of the hour. See, when I got associated with this translation work somewhere in the year 1999 maybe, if I remember correctly, there were many projects coming from outside Goa. In the state of Goa, there were hardly any projects of translation. But since I was introduced to the rest of the India through my social work, many people used to come to me, many agencies used to come to me. I remember first Orkut came to me, then followed by Google and many others. Orkut had sent me, that time, 1999, a set of 1 crore words. You will not even imagine. They were all core terms to be translated in Kokani language. I can give you some examples. The core terms were like this. There were many forms of the same word formed later on, like acceptable, new policy, access, accessibility, account balance, account domain, adapter, administration, add-on. Likewise, alphabetically arranged 1 crore words. Basic words should be around, say, 13 or 14 lakhs. And all the other forms made out of the basic words. So altogether there was a repository of 1 crore words. And they were all to be translated into Kokani. I think Anil knows about this matter because many such projects were given to DOL also later on. And you know the rate of this translation work jobs, 1 rupee per word it was. So such a lucrative, translation exercise which came to Goa during that time. Many people took advantage of that, including me, of course. But we could not take 1 crore words at a time because we had to, we were all in job, we were all in service. But such was the lucrative, opportunities that came during that time, since 1999. Then there was Government of India coming out with a notification. You must be knowing that. And if time permits, we can even see it on the screen also. Government of India came with a notification saying that every project, may it be real estate project, pharmaceutical project, or in Goa there were so many mining projects. So any project that is coming to the state of Goa in any village or any locality should present 2 types of reports. One is EIA and other one is EMP. environment impact assessment, and environment management plan. These reports were running into some hundreds of pages, 600, 700 pages. And as per the law, which was there right from 2006, I believe. Even if it was there before, I don't know. From 2006, the rule came into existence that all these EIAs and EMPs should be translated into Konkani and read out to the people where the project is supposed to come. So this notification had a great influence on Goan economy also, especially with respect to Konkani, I am telling. All the notifications, all the gazettes, citizens' charters, websites, all these were started, translating into Konkani. Especially these mining projects. There were more than 250 mining projects in Goa that time, after 90s, all of you. It was a mining boom. And during that time, all these EIAs and EMPs multiplied by 600 pages. So 250 multiplied by these many pages. So you see the turnover, how much it was. I myself attended 192 public hearings in Goa. Can you imagine? Myself, only alone. Besides me, there were many other people. For pharmaceuticals, for real estate, for anything. Even for a hospital to be established in a particular village, a public hearing was taking place. Now also it takes place. For these highways, national highways, bypasses and all. Construction of a bridge also requires a public hearing. And all of them to be conducted in the language Konkani. Report is to be made in English, translated into Konkani, sometimes in Marathi also, because Marathi has been also given the equal status as per the Official Act of Goa. So this was the thing when I got associated with this type of work. Otherwise, I was a normal professor, teacher of Konkani in PES college right from 1989. So this opened another world before me of translation. I went to Jharkhand, I went to Nagpur, I went to many parts of Maharashtra where these mining activities were taking place. And I conducted the public hearings in the languages of those places. Marathi, Hindi, and many other places. So this is how today translation has become the fourth largest industry in the world. Can anybody tell me which is the first one? The first industry which gives, maximum employment in terms of employment or in terms of, the turnover of the projects. The first one is real estate. The second one, can anybody tell me again now? The second one, the industry which gives maximum employment, or in terms of turnover of the production or the finance. The second industry is pharmaceuticals, pharma industry. The third industry, now can anybody try? Yeah? The third industry is supposed to be the insurance sector, which gives maximum employment and the turnover is also the third highest. And the survey reports say that tourism and translation go hand in hand. Maybe tourism is having the fourth position, translation fifth, or the other way. So this is how today translation is placed. It has become a world industry now. Translation, interpretation, so many types of services. Another day, a project came to me for translation of a website of a foreign university. Because they want to have their interface into Konkani language, Marathi language, when they come down to India. See, all of you see the hoardings here outside, Tuja frizan kide asa. It is written in Konkani, Devanagari, sometimes in Roman script also. A company manufacturing refrigerators in Japan feels a need to translate their message, their advertisement matter in all the Indian languages because there is a huge market here, isn't it? So for that purpose, they come down to India, they search translators. So it has become the very lucrative sort of a employment today. So with this type of introduction, now let us come to the glossaries, particularly. Non-fiction translation, fiction translation, and such type of technical translation, as I told you, gazettes, citizens' charters, laws, deeds, all these of the government bodies, if we consider, in the state of Goa only, if you consider, there are more than 100 departments in the state of Goa. More than 100 departments. You go on counting, you will find smaller and bigger. There are more than, say, 70 to 80 corporations in Goa, government corporations. All their gazettes, all their notifications, their websites, their charters, citizen charters, are to be translated in Konkani as well as Marathi. If you roughly calculate the volume of the work, it comes out to be 30 crores of pages. So 30 crore rupees budget, if you consider 1 rupee per word, they are giving, I think, 1.25 per word. They are giving more than that. And they are the highest, payers. Central government pays just 50 paisa per word. I'm working for many central government projects also. They pay me just 50 paisa per word. But our government is paying 1.25 per word. These are the charges for translation. So it has become a very, decent type of employment sector, especially in the state of Goa, with 30 crores of volume of, documents to be translated in Marathi and Konkani. Out of which dictionaries, glossaries, vocabularies are naturally a part of that. Today's session is dedicated to that. So, Mrs. Suchita Singh was supposed to present, but now she is not arrived here. So now I request first Dr. Aditi Budkuley to make her presentation. Are you going to present on this screen? No, okay, fine. So I request her. Roughly we will say 15 to 20 minutes time per speaker, per paper presenter. Then some 10 minutes discussion, and then I will give some concluding remarks. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I don't have a presentation today. I'll be reading a paper, and with your permission, sir, I'll begin. My name is Dr. Aditi Budkuley, and I am a doctor in Ayurveda. I'm here because I have interest in this field. I'll be speaking about terminology and its present value in translation. Yesterday when we met, we saw that translation begins the moment that an idea is born, whether it is in your own mind or in the mind of another person. And then on, it innumerably gets translated when the writer himself pens it down to the myriad ways in which that same form, that creative form, is expressed. That is the value of translation. And one of the most important things that you need for that translation are words, a bank of words, vocabulary. And in that vocabulary, there is a significant part that terminology plays. How that is, we'll see now. The title of my paper is Scientific Terminology in the Context of Contemporary Translation in Indian Languages. As one sets out to define the context of contemporary translation in Indian languages, it becomes pertinent to consider the British colonial presence in India and its impact on translation. Arguably, the British colonial presence and their policy was largely fueled with Western scientific translational ventures in the Indian languages since the early 19th century. While the Anglophile history was generated in a rather impressive case where English was meant to be the lingua franca of the world. But it has hardly been as positive a term as it was intended to be. In fact, historians of science working on other non-Western contexts have convincingly demonstrated that there is, in Al-Shakri's words, no culturally neutral lingua franca. Although the view cited above is in the context of scientific studies, it has an extensive application when it comes to defining the need, scope, and significance of reverse translation in Indian languages today. The language barrier has been a definite hurdle, first for wider based implementation of initiatives, slower progress of promising innovations, and curtailed uptake of successful ventures across geographies, whether this is in the domain of education, research and development, economy, governance, or the like. However, with the advent of technology and ease of access to information, it appears to have steadily melted away. In fact, the case for the need and use of translation as a process and practice has been underscored beyond doubt in the melting pot of the ever-emerging technologies. As such, it will not be far-fetched to say that today, bolstered with the advancing technologies, translation is the new lingua franca, which can thankfully also be culturally specific. Traditionally, translation has been one of the oldest means of information acquisition and episteme development. If the oral traditions of Indian history are any proof, not to mention the copious multilingual translations and quality anusarjan, that is transcreation of Indian epics or mythology, and bhashyas, that is commentaries on the scientific and literary treatises originally available in Sanskrit, translation has been prevalent as an inseparable conduit of Indian knowledge system. Elsewhere, translation was happening in the Mesopotamian era as well, where the Sumerian poem Gilgamesh was being translated. Also, there are Buddhist monks who have been translating Indian texts into Chinese. It appears that the active spread of thought and religion, along with its cumulative socio-cultural impact, had much to do with the advance of translation for obvious reasons. Ease of propagation of thought, readiness in acceptance of new knowledge, and seamless assimilation of beliefs across the barrier of languages. Later, the art and science of translation was greatly impacted parallelly by twin factors. One is the rise in literacy, and second is the introduction of printing press. They offered a wider readership base as well as source means of demand supply of matter required. Gradually, in the post-globalization era, translation also got its academic due with the development of the discipline of translation studies armed with its emergent theory. This further ascertained the refinement of both the praxis and the process of translation, leading to significant improvement in the quality and accuracy of translation, particularly in the faithful adherence to the source text. Undeniably, wide-ranging globalization aided by the vigorous arrival of internet opened extensive avenues for translation by revolutionizing its very phenomenon. In this context, undeniably, wide-ranging globalization aided by the vigorous arrival of internet opened extensive avenues for translation by revolutionizing its very phenomenon. In this context, Stephen Doherty observes that with internet users now in the billions and the growth far from tapering off, translation technologies was providing solutions that traditional human translation processes simply cannot manage. These technologies were transforming the very nature and practice of translation as a whole. With the expanse of content and the urgency of demand having amplified for translation, it is natural that the technological advancements are presently more focused on augmenting its output and value with the application of artificial intelligence. I think two very important talks were held in the in yesterday's evening half regarding this. AI aims at achieving a new and a higher level of speed with precision, either with or without human assistance. As of today, the innovations in AI have made machine learning a very essential part of every field which is using the computerized system. Translation case in point. In this regard, summarizing Kannan and Munde's relevant views, Fontdelavel and Araya observe that AI language learning tools have come a long way in the past few years, both in terms of how well they work and how easy they are to use. Implementing AI productively for translation requires processing the natural language in human communication. Towards this end, the field of natural language processing, henceforth NLP, employs the combined episteme of computer science, linguistics, and machine learning. The process of machine learning, however, may not be as straightforward as expected, since the grasp of linguistic subtleties is greatly influenced by the socio-cultural context and the regional bias, which in turn may become a source of ambiguity. An illustration will make this clear. For instance, the ambiguity in the equivalence of the scientific terms can be fostered or even triggered by the socio-cultural context of the term. Sometimes region-specific conventions can interfere by way of polysemy, semantic deviation, and distorted derivations. These are the three things that we might see today. Regarding navigating polysemy, likely ambiguities are caused by multiple meanings of the same term in the target language. For example, in Konkani, the meaning of the homonym gal, they are as follows. The first meaning is residue or sediment, second being abuse, and third meaning alluvial earth or eroded soil. Now, obviously, the context will decide how the word is used. Dealing with regional conventions. For this discussion, I would like to focus on the first meaning of the term gal, which was residue or sediment. So it is used to denote leftover particles at the end of the process of filtration. However, in Konkani parlance, the term vastragal, which should logically mean fabric filtered fine residue. However, vastragal implies refined filtrate at the end of the process of filtration and not the residue. Furthermore, as per the regional convention in the village of Khola in Kankon Taluka, the term gal also implies the alluvial basin, as in the land created post-erosion of the soil. Regarding maneuvering distorted derivatives, at times what happens is the variance in meaning is caused by the derivations or the tadbhavikaran of tatsam Sanskrit words. In this case, we will take paroksh and aparoksh. Paroksh means the invisible or the absent. So it is apratyaksh, could be a opposite of pratyaksh. Conversely, aparoksh is the visible or the perceivable. However, in Konkani, the term aprukhi, which appears to be the tadbhav form of aparoksh in Sanskrit, means in the absence of. So aparoksh in Sanskrit means pratyaksh, that which is visible. Aprukhi in Sanskrit means the absence of, which is paroksh. Such and other ambiguities generate hurdles in the process of translation in general, but mainly in the creation of accurate scientific terminologies. So, Singh cautions, citing Mukherjee, science in translation, once relocated in new historical contexts, acquires meanings through its tactical deployment. This impacts the seamless process of machine learning and affects the ease of interlingual processes. However, there is a way to get around the hurdles of social context or regional conventions. In creating scientific terms in TL, its context should be prioritized, and the appropriate usage of the term be adopted as an equivalent. Interestingly, of all the relevant tools of translation, lexicon easily remains the most important one for accurate and quality output. This can be demonstrated in the context of scientific terminology in the contemporary translations. According to Lu and Lu, the distinction between scientific translation and the other types of translations resides in scientific terms of the text. The author's aesthetic intention is the focus of literary translation, whereas the precision of scientific terms contributes to scientific translation effectiveness. So, in fine, the replication of the authorial intent in translation is the focus of a non-scientific or a literary translation. At times, by amplification, we can call it arthavardhan, or curtailment of meaning, that is arthasankshep. So the abhivyakti may be affected by both. On the other hand, the congruency of scientific concept with the equivalent term is the priority of the scientific translation. Thus, the prerequisite of an accurate and precise subject-specific terminology for scientific translation in a chosen TL is inevitable. This underscores the importance of creating and evolving terminologies in every TL aspiring for scientific translations in any specific and or technical domain. Interestingly, in the Indian context, this realization seems to have been dating back to more than 2 centuries. By mid-19th century, technical vocabularies of various disciplines had begun to emerge in Indian languages like Hindi to facilitate the teaching of Western scientific learning in vernacular. For example, Rajendra Lal Mitra's scheme for the rendering of European scientific terms into the vernaculars of India, which was published in 1877, is credited by Gyan Prakash as a key moment marking the earliest Indian intervention in the 19th century discussions of the translation of European scientific and medical knowledge. It is duly regarded as an instance of the cultural appropriation of the discourse of science by a middle class, Western educated Hindu elite through translation. Although initially for colonial prospects, eventually they were fueled by the objective of academic progress of this nation. It is observed in the early 19th century, European officials and philologists had translated Western scientific knowledge into South Asian languages as part of the educational scheme of what they imagined was civilizing colonial subjects. By the end of the century, Indian elites instead took the lead and began to forge terminologies to promote modern sciences in their own languages. However, when it comes to lexicographic content creation, such as terminology or dictionary or glossaries, while knowledge acquisition is an obvious motivation, linguistic assertion and language reform are the more driving inducements. In this case, I would like to mention Hindi Shabd Sagar 1908-1929 was published, and there was a laudable commitment to the language reflected in the Bhumika, that is the preface of the general editor. To quote Shri Shyam Sundar Das, मुख्य उद्देश्य यह था कि जहां तक हो सके कोश में हिंदी भाषा में व्यवहृत होने या हो सकने वाले अधिक से अधिक शब्द आ जाए और यथासाध्य कोई आवश्यक बात या शब्द छूटने ना पावे. To this end, Hindi Shabd Sagar was a first of its kind venture. Das admits it, saying, किसी भी देशी भाषा में वैज्ञानिक ढंग पर कोई शब्दकोश प्रस्तुत नहीं हुआ था. इसीलिए शब्द सागर के संपादकों को एक ऐसे नए क्षेत्र में काम करना पड़ा था जिसमें अभी तक कोई काम हुआ ही नहीं था. No wonder this is a monumental dictionary. When taken together, the scholarly views quoted above clearly show the role of scientific terminology in dissemination of knowledge. This is an apt illustration for the need of creation of terminologies, especially scientific terminologies, to facilitate education in contemporary regional languages like Konkani with the help of NLP. This is exactly where scientific terminology creation presents challenges and requires strategies for creating disambiguous and accurate terms.
Dr. Aditi, another 2-3 minutes will wind up.
Yes, I think
Yes.
1.5, sir.
Fine.
Accurate terms which are end user friendly. Second, multi-system accessible. Third, effortlessly multi-target and multi-language interactive. It is important to note here that the most of the Western scientific and technical terminologies have their origin in Latin and or Greek languages. To acquire this knowledge base for any Indian regional TL would surely require coinage of neologisms. But more than that, it will need two things: a focused restructuring of pre-existing vocabulary with a keen understanding of the nature and structure of the target language, and an open-minded acceptance of repositories of Sanskrit and other sister languages which are available. This will fulfill the purpose of ambiguity-free and accurate data sets for machine learning in NLP. Taking a cue from Lu, they explain NLP techniques look at and understand language data. NLP algorithms can pull out linguistic features and patterns for text and speech. This can help language learning algorithms and AI learning tools work better. In conclusion, in this quest for a near perfect scientific terminology for machine learning and NLP in Konkani, it should be borne in mind that the terminology creation is not the end goal, but the preliminary building block for learning and research aids like glossary, dictionary, thesaurus, encyclopedia, etc. Hence, the need to systemize and fine-tune the process of scientific terminology creation in the light of the guidelines that have been given by the Commission for Science and Technical Terminology is paramount for its application primarily in the field of education and research to create knowledge society. It is no coincidence that the NEP envisions an equitable and vibrant society, and it particularly proposes integration of technology and availability of content in Indian languages. This underscores beyond doubt that the shared path of technology and terminology in the service of education in the regional language across domains seems non-negotiable. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, dear Aditi. A nice presentation. First, she dealt with the history of translation with respect to India, and then she has gone to the literary translations, tools and trends presently used in the process of translation. She has also highlighted some of the issues in translation, like Arthavruddhi and many other things. See, dear friends, translation was never monodiscipline exercise. It was always a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, intradisciplinary, and at times beyond disciplinary subject. So therefore, she has given justice to the topic what she was given to her. The last part which she narrated, that translation or preparation of glossaries is not the ultimate thing. It is not the sadhya. It is just a sadhan. That is what she highlighted. Thank you, Aditi, for that nice presentation. Now we have a presentation by Ms. Suchita Singh. I request Professor Narayan Singh ji to kindly do the presentation. Since Suchita ji is with us in the auditorium, she cannot come here due to a small injury. I request Professor Narayan Singh to kindly present her paper.
Thank you, Professor Bhushan Bhave. Actually, it's a joint paper, it's not just her paper. So I should be given some credit for that. But we have been doing joint work. In fact, let me narrate the entry of two of us into linguistics, into lexicography. Linguistics, of course, we have been doing. But a point of time in 2005, 2006, we were approached by the Longman Group, saying that they have a unique dictionary which has done very good in the marketing, in terms of marketing in England and elsewhere in Europe. What they had done is they depended on the BNC, British National Corpus. And based on British National Corpus, they looked at the most frequent words. And they found out that there are 14,000 words in English which are very frequent. That is, if you know those 14,000 words, you know English. You don't have to know more than that. So, and as you know, each word can have multiple meanings. We've just been told that there are so many meanings a particular word can have. Now, even there is a statistics. You can easily find out statistically in the huge British national corpus, which are the 3 most frequent meanings of a word. So out of these 14,000 most frequent words, 3 most important meanings. So this 42,000 is your target. Now they said that can this be replicated in Indian languages? If you can, then how do you do that? So we looked at this problem and then we said that if we can do it, but we'll not do it only in 1 or 2 languages. Because being in Mysore, both of us were in Mysore at that point of time, and she was actually handling the Microsoft validation team. Some of them are present here. In that validation team, they were actually bringing down all the entire Microsoft 2007 into Indian languages. So what you see in Indian languages, Microsoft, is a product of that time. So Web Dunia was also involved and we were also involved in CI. And she was coordinating that project. So then we said, okay, this dictionary seems to be a really interesting idea. Let's also look at this, because in Microsoft, one thing that Suchita was doing was preparing a negative dictionary, negative word dictionary. As you know, this Microsoft software is such that if you really type using their software, some negative words, some words which are discriminating for members of a particular religion, particular caste, etc., that word will be deleted or flagged or questioned or whatever it is. So that is a good work, very interesting work. But then this is something which is much more huge, because 42,000 is your target. So we created a team of about 100 editors. So we started with 16 languages, and 16 into 2 to 3 editors, plus there are assistant editors. In total, there are about 100 people in the whole team of this dictionary making enterprise. And interesting thing was that across the languages, as you know, the same words mean so many different things. So if you want to look at upanyas, first of all, upanyas itself is a dubitable word, as we all know. Why is nyas is something, why is upanyas is something else, and why does it mean novel in some languages and not novel in some other languages? So there's a big problem. So the strategy that was used by us was that we would have a meeting of the team members across languages to sit down and then discuss among ourselves, word by word, how we proceed further. Our basic belief was that these dictionaries are actually a guide, cultural guide. I have said it in the joint paper that I have here with me. We have said it, and said these are all cultural guides. And you can actually have a lot of interesting experience and a lot of fun as well. Fun part, let me tell you, how many of you have heard about the dictionary called SNIGLET, Sniglet? Anybody here who has heard about sniglets? Okay. Now, sniglets are words, dictionary of words, published by Reader's Digest. If you, in fact, look for sniglets in Reader's Digest in Google, you will find that. These are words, these are terms which could have existed, but they don't. It's interesting because 2 of us had written a paper in Bangla called The Possible and the Impossible in Bangla Word Formation. In fact, this is at that point of time, a lot of people internationally were working on things like uncompromising is all right. Can you have uncompromising? So that kind of thing. Because if you look at the the upasargas in English or in Sanskrit or our languages like prapara, pasamanva, bali, durabhi. You can actually put pranama, upanama, and so many things, you can actually create those things. But there are certain things with certain combinations which are possible, allowed, and certain combinations are not allowed. Why they are not allowed, nobody tells us. No grammarian tells us, no language specialist tells us. So that's something which is interesting. And if you look at the total parameter of Bangla, for instance, you can easily see, looking at these combinations, which words could have existed, but they don't exist. And which word could have now been created, because in technical term dictionaries, we always need new words. Constant supply of new words. So therefore, we have a lot of ground to play with. And that was the kind of interest that we had. And, if you look at this example, a few examples, let me give you from Sniglet. There's a word called LOTSHOCK. Write it down if you can. LOTSHOCK. Lot shock. What could have been the meaning of lot shock? The act of parking your car, walking away, and then watching the car is rolling past you. So you have not applied the brake properly. Lot shock is the word. Then FLIRR, flur. What could it be? What could be the meaning of flur? It means a photograph. Many times you notice that the photograph where the finger of the photographer is appearing at the corner of the photograph, damaging the entire value of the photograph. So that is flur, this word. Then you have DWRK, dark. Is a person who pushes the door where it is little pull. Actually, if you look at this Sniglet dictionary, you will keep laughing. The entire day will go in laughing about this. So that's an interesting thing. Now, we believe that in our market economy, some languages have had good luck with dictionaries. Not all languages have had. In fact, my language, Maithili, did not have much good luck. And we had only one or two. We had very good linguistics work. We had in 1958, Subhadra Jha's The Formation of Maithili. Subhadra Jha is a student of Professor Surya Kumar Chatterjee, who created the ODBL, the Origin and Development of Bengali Language, in 1916 from London. And that was the model for us. So Baburam Saxena used the same model. And many other people, they used the same model. And Subhadra Jha, being his student, also used that model and created this, the formation of Maithili, which was published by Luzak and Company, London, in 1958. It became a very pioneering word. In fact, it is still regarded as, like formation of Marathi and the Baburam Saxena's book in Hindi. I think this one, the one which is done by Subhadra Jha, surpasses them, because if you look at the details, it's impossible to understand how somebody who is not a professor, who is a librarian in BHU, could come up with such a wonderful treatise, huge one, formation of Maithili. But he didn't do any dictionary. He had brilliant ideas. I mean, I had a lot of time discussion. In fact, my attraction for Banaras was because I would go and stay in his house and fight with him, argue with him. He said, "You teach me Chomsky and I'll teach you the traditional linguistics." So we had a lot of discussion, but he didn't come up with a dictionary. And I was expecting his son Prabhakar, who also joined linguistics, would also come up with some kind of a dictionary making. But no, even he didn't. Prabhakar's work, which got fetched in the delete in linguistics in Paris, was on Maithili phonetics. So Maithili was very rich in linguistics and phonetics, but no dictionary. Very, very rare kind of situation. So Rita Kothari in a paper says that the gateway to 8th schedule of constitution is the deciding criteria. Those who got into it later, Konkani, Maithili, Manipuri, Bodo, Santali. Those who got into it later were somehow behind in the dictionary making enterprise, whereas those who went earlier were like that. And remember that some languages like Bengali was very lucky in particular. We had great linguists like Ramendra Sundar Trivedi. This name is unheard of now for the Bengali scholars of today. But Ramendra Sundar Trivedi in 1898 created for physics, for chemistry, for biology, for mathematics, for all these languages, all these subjects, technical terminology dictionary under the Bangiya Sahitya Parishad. So much before Government of India enterprise or any enterprise anywhere in any part of India, Bangiya Sahitya Parishad had completed it. And Tagore was greatly involved in that. As you know, Tagore, an 8th pass poet, was professor of literature in Kolkata University, and he was also responsible for the standardization of language. In 1933, there was a committee which was created, and Sunil Kumar Chatterjee was there, Tagore was there, a great statistician who established the Indian Statistical Institute, P.C. Maulanavis, who did a lot of work on lexicography and particularly statistical work in Bangla. He was part of that. And scientists like J.C. Bose was there, P.C. Roy was there. They were all part of that committee which created the standardization of Bangla language. So much before the standardization, they said that yes, now that we have had somebody like Trivedi and Bangiya Sahitya Parishad who came up with these dictionaries, we can think of now the standards, setting a standard. I think one of the things that is important is to create style guides and dictionaries and thesauri and word finder and many of these facilities in each language to be able to do that. So Rita Kothari says that if we compare across Indian languages, some languages like Hindi, Kannada, Malayalam fare much better than the newly included constitutional languages like Maithili, Manipuri. And she attributes this partly to the fact that it's entered the official roster of scheduled languages on the constitution earlier, and mainly due to the marketability. I think this is very crucial, marketability. How many dictionaries exist in Bangla? Very difficult to say, because there are hundreds and hundreds of dictionaries. And what is the sales figure? Each dictionary sells for tens of thousands or lakhs of copies. Who buys them? Where do they go? So interesting. Now, those of you who are wondering about the thesaurus making in Indian languages, we all know of Samantar Kosh in Hindi, Arvind Kumar and Kusum Kumar enterprise. But many of us do not know that much before that, mechanical engineer Ashok Mukhopadhyay came up with Samartha Shabdakosh in Bangla. So that's there. And even before that, 20 years before that in Bangladesh, you had a thesaurus called Jatha Shabda. So even thesaurus making started much earlier in many of all these older, within quote, languages, those who entered into the constitution much earlier. Why did this thing happen? This happened because dictionaries actually facilitate our communication. Even before Bangla became a literary language in the modern sense, we had the Portuguese scholars who started working on Bangla. We all know that Manuel da Assumpção was the first one who wrote dictionary and language description of Bangla long ago, and it was printed in Portugal. It was not printed. No printing facility existed in as far as Bangla was concerned. There was no lithography. This type setting was not there, and in fact, it's only the much later that British people had got some people who to create the type fonts for Bangla and then set those things. But the Portuguese people did it much earlier and they printed there. So facilitating communication was an important thing. When they started teaching William Carey started teaching Indian languages, Hindi and Bangla and Urdu in Fort William College, the basic purpose was that this teaching will facilitate the communication between the rulers and the ruled. So this was the main purpose. So dictionary, they played a major role there. They would go with a pocket dictionary to find out, because they didn't have the kind of devices that we have these days, to find out what exactly they meant. Second was the preserving cultural identity. I think it's very, very crucial that inside a word, there was a whole history. There are lots of words where history is hidden, and those words will tell you what they mean. If you really want to dig further and further into those words, history will unravel its beauty and mystery before you. That cultural tag is very important. There's hardly anyone here who's not who studied lexicography and who's not studied Ladislav Zguska. Zguska was the first one who wrote on dictionary making or lexicography. Everybody has a volume there. And in fact, those of you who are interested in this area would do well to look at this book called Cultures, Ideologies and the Dictionary. Studies in honor of Ladislav Zguska, written by Braj Kachru. Braj Kachru, as you know, was a famous English literature person who established the foreign languages department in the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and he brought in languages of the world from Africa, from Latin America, from India into Urbana-Champaign, because Urbana-Champaign had always been interested in this area. And this book, Cultures, Identities, Ideologies and the Dictionary, Studies in honor of Ladislav Zguska, edited by Kachru and Kahane. This is a very important book. There's a whole series of books, as you know, called Lexicographica. The whole series. This is the 64th book in that series. So those of you who are interested in this area should look at Lexicographica volumes, one after the other. There are lots and lots of examples of this from all over languages all over the world. How dictionaries help us preserve cultural identity. This is another thing. Third is, of course, it allows us to enhance the accessibility. Quite often, some medieval document you have found out, and you are trying to find out how to access that document, how to read the document, how to understand the document. Dictionaries will help you in making this possible to penetrate into that particular text. And dictionaries will also tell you how, interestingly, people can sometimes, even in medieval ages, can sometimes fudge things, because there's a very important text which was discovered by Sukumar Sen. Somebody in 14th century, in the 16th century, decided to create an identity, fake identity of an author who belonged to 13th century in Bangla. Now, we are talking about fake news and fake things these days, but in 16th century, there is a text called Sheikh Shubhodaya. Sheikh Shubhodaya. This is a complete fake thing, because the claim is that this is actually dated 12th, 13th century, and Sukumar Singh, the lexicographer, caught this fellow creating because if you are a good lexicographer, you can easily catch somebody recreating history in the stylistically and all that. So that was possible to do. So it will actually enhance your accessibility and help you in penetrating into a text and to find out the authenticity of the text and many other things. It also promotes inclusivity. Inclusivity, of course, Prakash ji will look at inclusivity in a different way, but here inclusivity means there are many, many languages which are completely relegated to the background. Oh, you don't come here. This is for the elderly people. This is for us. This is for us. So we are the Brahmins of literature. This is for us. So this is a problem which happens many places, and inclusivity is very important in dictionary making, because it then connects these smaller languages with you, and you will know how beautiful some of those expressions are in Toto, in Lepcha, in Limbu, and many of those languages. it fosters the global collaboration, and it is definitely a cross-cultural understanding gets created here because there are cultural nuances. In fact, one American lady who was watching a particular film with me in the USA was shocked to see that there is this African tribal scenario where there's an American lady in the scene. She's standing, she's come here and she's saying hello or something, in her own cultural manner. And this man, African man, runs towards her and with like this, touches her. So she's shocked. Why is this fellow touching like that? But that's the way, that's the cultural nuance. But that's the way to greet people for them in that community. Now, we don't know. So many of these things we don't know, but dictionaries actually tell you. Particularly visual dictionaries will also tell you how, what means what and how they mean something. In any kind of education scenario, the supporting education, in fact, when I was a small child, about 7-8-year-old, my father would take me holding my hand onto the grass in Takuria Lake, with opening your chappal, you have to walk on the grass, and then you will have to memorize and remember Amar Kosha. I'm sure some of you will remember that earlier generation, they used to think that if you can memorize Amar Kosha, then you can be a good creative writer because dictionary memorizing is very important tool. So, it's part of education at some point of time for some people. And of course, as I said, they are cultural guides. So this is what we have written. We have written also how we can explore dictionaries which can serve as cultural guide. There are about 7 strategies, that we have written down here. But I think I'm overshooting my time, and I should, in the interest, okay, I can then read out some of these things. Let me look at the strategies. Firstly, dictionaries contain some cultural signifiers in their definitions. They often include additional information beyond simple definition. This may include etymology, using examples, connotations, etc. These details provide cultural context and help users understand not just the literal meaning of the word, but also its cultural implications. If anybody today sits down to create a new dictionary in Konkani, you will find out that there are about 2,000 sentences which are must for you to understand. Why? Because these 2,000 sentences are definitional sentences. You are going to use them in different items under different heads, lexical heads. Now, so that is the saying in a roundabout way. So if you take up any dictionary and open, look at this, you'll find that a lot of definitions of the word or description are a roundabout way of saying the same thing. So they don't say much. So a lot of time you will see the children asking you a question, what does it mean, Papa? Can you explain more? So that is a problem. So that is why the cues, hints, some signifiers, some other connotations, they are given in the dictionary so that you can make some connection and you can make some sense. Secondly, idiomatic expressions and proverbs included are rich sources of cultural wisdom. Once I was working on Arabic idioms and how sexist they are, how they are anti-women. If you look at the complete idiomatic dictionary of Arabic languages, you'll find that there are lots of things which are against women. So this is very interesting how your worldview gets penetrated into your dictionary making as well. So this is another very interesting thing. Thirdly, evolution of languages and cultural changes are reflected in the ways new words and expressions are incorporated. There is, we just heard about the AI. And the implication of AI is, we had once Maurice Gross coming from University of Paris in the HCU, University of Hyderabad, where I was teaching at that point of time. We had a joint conference there. And they presented us the technology which they use, which they have developed themselves, which they use. Every week, they come up with an update of French dictionary. How? I said, how do you do that, Professor Gross? Can you tell us? He said, look at this. We have a whole system that this newspaper, Le Monde, they give us regular parsable dumps on a daily basis into our system. Our system looks at each word used by Le Monde that particular week, that particular day, and then matches with the existing French dictionaries, any French dictionary. And if they find that it doesn't exist in any French dictionary, then they add it to the dictionary. They create a prompt and they create a context, they create a possible meaning, and this gets ready by the fifth or sixth day. On the seventh day, the editorial board sits down and look at them and they release it. Which means every week the French dictionary gets enhanced. So that is the kind of system they have. We are far away from there, but we can be there. With the kind of technological prowess that India has achieved now in AI, we can also be there provided somebody has the idea of doing this. So this depends on you. Fourthly, he also marks social etiquettes and politeness strategies. There are lots of politeness markers which are unknown to people who do not know that language with the culture. If somebody has learned that particular language, if you have learned it only in school or college, and not in real practice that language, then you won't know the politeness marking strategies. And politeness marking is very important. In fact, personally, I have had several papers called Flirting Strategies in Bangla. How to honor somebody in Maithili. These are all politeness marking rules, which are very important. You know, you can, as linguists, you can actually work on them, and you can find out what would be interesting way of finding out writings. Fifthly, regional and dialectal variations are documented in the dictionaries. The dictionaries not only have the mainstream thing, but also regional things. And if you have an author-specific dictionary like Ravindra Shabdakosh, or you can have the Michael Madhusudan Dutt whole dictionary. But then Michael Madhusudan Dutt has also used lots and lots of regional variations because he belonged to a particular region, particular community, and naturally that got reflected. And he was writing plays for the first time in Bengali. So before Tagore, so that was natural that things will happen. The regional and dialectal variations will get reflected. Now, the dictionary maker should take note of it. Sixthly, the cross-cultural communication becoming increasingly prevalent, dictionaries play a role in facilitating this understanding. They help us navigate linguistic and cultural differences. One of my students right now is working on an author called Sethu in Malayalam, who has done only one self-translation from Malayalam to English. Not like O.V. Vijayan. O.V. Vijayan does almost every novel he himself also translates into English. But Sethu has done only one self-translation. All other translations of his novels are by some other people. And in translating them, we are finding out the cultural gaps. There are so many cultural gaps in these novels. They have done very well in the English market. But then English readers won't know what the beauty of that original Malayalam novel was. So that is what my student is, Ammu Ashok, is trying to work on. Lastly, these dictionaries help us in preserving endangered languages. This goes without saying that dictionary making is one of the most important activity of this endangered language activity. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to make this presentation. Thank you.
When Professor Udaya speaks, it is a great, resourceful experience for all of us, which is the expertise and experience that he has worked for this field of linguistics and translation for so many years. He has told us the importance of dictionaries with respect to accessibility, inclusivity, then cross-cultural relations, and of course education. And he has given us he has suggested some beautiful areas for us to work, like artificial intelligence and so on. So I thank both of them for a joint paper, Professor Udaya Narayan Singh and Ms. Suchita Singh ji. Madam, we also thank you. You could not join us here, but then we all have a great regard for all of you. With respect to the English dictionary and all what he mentioned, I would like to narrate a small thing before I give it to Dr. Palia, because a small example came to my mind, which I will narrate in Konkani, of course. म्हज्या एका फ्रेंडागेर बशिल्लो तो आशिल्लो प्रोफेसर दत्ता. The name of that professor was Datta. And myself and one friend of mine who had come from Pune, both of them, we were sitting outside his house. And इतल्यान एक गेस्ट आयलो भायल्यान. And ताणें विचारलें दत्ता आसा रे काय म्हणून. So immediately Datta's mother came from inside and she told Datta is not there. In Konkani she said, Datta na, Datta bahar challa. This is what she said. Lady went inside, mother went inside. The guest also went. After 10 minutes, some other person came to search Professor Datta. And he also asked, Datta asa. Now that mother was not there, she was busy cooking inside. So the friend sitting beside me, he was from Pune, he answered, na, Datta bahar padla. Bahar padla meaning he is no more. And bahar challa means he has just left, gone out. So such are the differences of meanings which are carried out through different languages and contexts in which they are used. With this, I again thank Professor Udaya Narayan ji. In fact, we wanted more sessions from him, but some other time. DOL has done a nice duty to bring personalities like Professor Udaya Narayan Singh ji, which are I've heard him at Sahitya Academy. In fact, he had come to Goa for a 2 days national conference on use of scripts in India, by multiple scripts used by languages in India. I think Professor Prakash Babu was also there for that seminar. I was very lucky to be a part of that seminar along with Madhavi Sardesai, our linguist. And that seminar was held in some hotel in North Goa, and he had presented a keynote address for that. Because as you know, 10 to 12 languages of India are using multiple scripts, like Konkani is using Roman, Devanagari, Malayalam and Kannada script for writing. Similarly, many languages in India, Punjabi and Maithili and many other languages are using multiple scripts. So for that issue, he was the guide for Sahitya Academy to, resolve this issue, how to, resolve this issue of multiple scripts used by the languages. With that note, I now request Dr. Palia to present her paper. Are you presenting on the presentation?
So if Sneha succeeds in putting up the presentation,
then we have to go down. Otherwise, we'll not be able to see from here.
I think so I'll start because I only want to show illustrations.
Fine.
So by the time she manages to put up a PPT, I will read the rest of my paper. I am skipping some parts of my paper due to paucity of time, especially the literature review and the introduction. I'll directly come to the point. If you have watched, I will start with the formalities. Yes, thank you, sir, for permitting me to present my paper. Thank you to the panelists of this panel who have presented quite interesting papers, and it is my privilege to be on the same panel as Professor Udaya Narayan Singh as well as Ma'am Suchita. With your due permission, Sir Bhave, I will start with my presentation. My presentation is titled Creating Literary Terminology, Process, Methods and Challenges. I have added one small phrase here, and therefore the title now stands Creating Literary Terminology in Konkani, Process, Methods and Challenges. At the outset, I would like to place some acknowledgements. The present researcher is grateful to the Directorate of Official Language, Government of Goa, for hosting the present project that I'm going to mention in this paper. The present researcher would like to acknowledge the contribution of Professor Kiran Budkuley, Sneha Sabnis, Akshita Bhatt, Tanvi Bamborkar, Aditi Budkuley, Gauravi Keni, Gaurang Bhandye, and Govin Mopkar in the ongoing project of terminology creation. The paper discusses the work of this team. Illustrations mentioned are largely taken taken from the terms assigned to the present researcher. However, there are few terms from the list of the aforementioned experts. The Directorate of Official Language, Government of Goa, with a team of experts, is currently working on a literary terminology creation project from English to Konkani. This paper aims to study the shortlisting of terms, their translation, subsequent terminology creation, and the challenges involved therein. With respect to this project, it will also highlight the role of Sanskrit and its derivative languages of Hindi and Marathi in coining the new terms in Konkani. I will skip the literature review here. I will come directly to the methodology that we have invested in while creating this literary terminology. The Directorate of Official Language, Government of Goa, aimed to create a literary terminology in Konkani for the benefit of students of literature, academicians, research scholars, and translators who wish to work in the field of literary criticism. The team shortlisted terms from the 2 literary glossary texts, namely a glossary of literary terms by M.H. Abrams and a dictionary of literary terms and literary theory by J.A. Cuddons. The terms listed for terminology creation were sorted according to their relevance to the domains of Indian languages and literature, literary criticism, linguistics, prosody, and literary research. The first batch of shortlisted terms contained 4,500 terms. A team of 9 language and literature experts was appointed by the Directorate to create equivalent terms in Konkani. The lead expert guided the team through a set of conditions to be followed while creating the terminology, some of which are as follows. As far as possible, inflections are to be avoided in the target term. The target term should be independent of gender or number. The target term should preferably have its base in Sanskrit so as to be relevant to other Indian languages as well, and should appear in online keyword search if such search engine is created in future. The aim should be to be as accurate as possible in meaning and reduce ambiguity as much as possible. Terms might have to be created in Konkani if need be. If the term has Latin or Greek origin, then the target term should preferably have a Sanskrit base. The term should not be explained in the target language. An equivalent term should be found or created. A uniform rule should be made with respect to the use of prefixes and suffixes. Assistance of Hindi or Marathi could be taken to formulate a new term wherever necessary. And the last one, irrelevant or outdated terms, thank you so much, Sneha. Irrelevant or outdated terms should be dropped out of the list. I'll directly come to the process. Since the terms were listed in a sequence, their relevance to the target language was not evaluated. It was left to the discretion of the team of experts to decide which terms should be retained and which terms to be dropped out of the list. The experts could take assistance from offline resources such as reference books, terminologies in other languages, and online resources such as Google Translate, Shabdakosh, Encyclopedia Britannica, etc. I will directly come to the illustrations. Sneha, can I request you to kindly change the slide? The first kind of illustration that I want to put up here is that of the terms which were retained. Certain terms had to be retained in order to preserve their literary significance in the source language. In the cases of the titles of literary periods, which you can see here, culture-specific, theory-specific concepts, certain prosodic terms, schools of thought, abbreviations, these terms were retained as they contain proper nouns, some of the terms. In some places, explanations were given in the target text, although it was decided to be avoided. These explanations could assist in term formulation at a later stage. I'll just ask Neha to change the next slide in a minute. Okay, can you just go to the previous slide? So you'll see that the term Edwardian period has been retained as Edwardian car. Now there is a concept called as Aunt Edna, which is in Terence Rattigan's play. Okay, it's a social character. It has been retained like that. Term like lang and parole, which comes in linguistics, has also been retained. So you'll see that certain schools of thought or certain terms which we cannot really find culturally in Konkani have been retained as they are. Next slide, please. Prosodic terms, especially, we had difficulty in translation because the prosodic rules which are there in English are not the same in Konkani. In fact, we have a lot of we don't have as many terms in Konkani as they are in English. So some terms we had to retain. Certain movements, like for example, art for art's sake, okay, we try to translate as much as possible, but we realize that we do need a glossary to explain what that particular movement would mean. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, okay, abbreviations were also retained as they are. Now you'll see that in case of prefixes and suffixes, okay, the word atonic was as a swar shaili, okay, to highlight the a part of it. Any term that would end with allegorical, okay, that is cal, we made it like rupakatmak, okay, at the end of it. Alliterative, okay, which the words that end with tive also ended with anuprasik, okay, so the ka part at the end. Next slide, please. There were certain terms which are derived from Hindi, Sanskrit, Marathi, okay, and you can see the influence of Hindi, Sanskrit and Marathi in these three examples that are put up here. Arsis and thesis, aghati and anaghati, okay, in terms of this is a term from poetry and also music. Affect theory, prabhav siddhant, okay, and escape literature, palayan sahitya. Now there is a song called I'm not sure whether I'm pronouncing it right. Obad, right? Yes. Okay, Obad, which is a morning song. It's a dawn song. Okay, and therefore I think Dr. Tanvi had formed this term. Okay, Fatod Geet. Yes, I think so. Okay, it is yours. Yes. Okay, so it is dawn song. Okay, it's Fatod Geet. And the last term is very interesting, King's English, which is a very British term. But now when we're taking it in Konkani, okay, we have to understand the meaning of King's English. That is, it is standard English that is taken in in England. Therefore, we have translated it not as King's English, although we could have very well retained it, but we have made it Manak English. Okay, that is the standard English. Yes, let's come to the challenges. Thank you. The challenges that we faced were there were certain culture-specific terms which did not hold relevance in the target culture, that is in Konkani. So we were left to decide whether to retain these terms or not. Period-specific terms which have no relevance in the current space and time. Terms in prosody specific to English poetry which had no similar system in English literature. Indian literature, unavoidable explanation of terms or not finding cultural one-word equivalents, culturally rooted equivalent terms which needed further explanation, and finding the right pronunciation, particularly of Irish and German terms. Now we had to transliterate these terms in Konkani, so we had to know the exact pronunciation of these terms in their original language, because English derives a lot of terms in, of course, Irish, German, and also Spanish. When we came across these terms. So they are not originally English. So we had to actually listen to a lot of pronunciations and then only transliterate. Coming to the conclusion. The objective of having a literary terminology in Konkani is to help researchers, academicians, and students interested in literature and translation to create information in the target language. Since the focus is on terminology in Indian languages and not solely on Konkani, a semblance of standardization with respect to target terms will happen. There has to be a consensus on the usage of these terms, not just by Konkani experts, but by Hindi and Marathi experts as well. As Ray comments, and I quote, "The problem of standardization can only be solved by the intervention of coordinating agency comprising of scientists, teachers, linguists, and lexicographers," unquote. 40 years after Jayanta Ray said this, in the case of Konkani literary terminology, the coordinating agency is the Directorate of Official Language, and the present 9 experts are teachers, professionals, translators, and linguists. The current terminology project is in its initial stages and therefore will undergo numerous changes before it is published. As an extension to this current project, a glossary of literary terms may be produced in order to compensate for the explanation that does not have a place in the primary assignment. With that, I would like to end my presentation. The last slide is that of references. It is not exhaustive. Yes, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Palia, for that nice presentation. Basically, You maintain the time limit. For that, a special thanks to you. Since yesterday we were discussing the theoretical part only, Dr. Palia has come to the real part that we are supposed to do henceforth after this workshop. I think that is the intention, objective of organizing such conferences and workshops, that we should start working now. It's too late. 60 years of independence and we have not done the preliminary work also. Just like Professor Udaya Narayan Singh mentioned, that the Portuguese missionaries and the scholars, they have done the work in Bengali. For his information, let me tell him that in the 17th century, they realized the importance of dictionaries and grammars. And in the 16th century and 17th century, when they came down to Goa, including Father Thomas Stephens, Diego Ribera, Miguel Almeida, and so many others, they created dictionaries. The first dictionary, first grammar of the language in any Asian language, which was printed, because by that time we had a printing press in Goa. 1560 we had the printing press here in Margao, so in Raishor. So the first grammar of any Indian language was printed in Konkani language. It's a matter of pride for us. But that is not the end. I mean, in the year from 1575 to 1684, there were 17 grammars and 24 dictionaries composed and published by European missionaries in Goa, in Konkani. You know, they have given various names. They have said lingua canarina, lingua vulgar, lingua current, and so many other names. But all of them are in Konkani. All of them are available in our central library. So that was the tradition. First 100 years of Portuguese rule, 17 grammars and 24 dictionaries. Next 200 years, it was a dark age for Konkani. There was nothing was printed, nothing was written, or nothing was published in the state of Goa. It was only after Kudnarivar came in 1853 maybe, or 55, then the period of Renaissance, period of resurrection of Konkani started. And then we had some dictionaries again published by Kudnarivar. The dictionaries of those period which we can see today are all republished by Kudnarivar. He had the third or the second edition of the dictionaries published in the 17th century. And that's why we can even study them today. Right? So that was the long tradition. How many of you, by the way, just a question before I go for some question answers. Is there any time for us, Neha, for question answers? Yeah. Okay, so we can interact with the resource persons later on when there is a break. So I will conclude now. And I was talking about that period of 100 years where we had a rich tradition of these dictionaries and glossaries. I was asking you a question. How many of you have read Abhyas Kosh in Konkani? Just raise your hands. I can see hardly any responses. How many of you have at least seen Abhyas Kosh in Konkani? Seen at least the cover or the book, hard copy of the book? My goodness. See, such a voluminous work which has been carried out by our own Damodar Ghanekar sitting in the auditorium, running into thousands of pages, which gives the entire, in Konkani we say Kul and Mood, isn't it? Right from the etymology of the word, the Vibhakti Pratyay, Vibhakti Roop, and everything is found there. So that's such a, such work has been carried out after the liberation of Goa by Manohar Desai, Chandrakant Kedi, Shantaram Hedo, Sripad Raghunath Desai, and many other stalwarts, including now what this Abhyas Kosh was. After that, there were no serious attempts. Like Professor Udaya Narayan Singh mentioned that before Government of India took over the work of dictionaries, Bengali had started with that work, even of thesaurus also. I remember Pune University in 1965, Pune University, they started such work of glossaries on a large scale in Pune. Vanaspati Shastra glossary they had, Prani Shastra they had, Vangsha Shastra, so many topics. They created small glossaries of say 1,000 words or 2,000 words. So our next target should be like that, in Konkani, so that we have all the dictionaries related to the new branches of knowledge that are coming now. Like we don't have anything on climate change, no glossary. We don't have anything on global warming. Goa had so many conferences of G20, but we don't have anything on global warming in Konkani. So that is the next target, for all of us to carry out. Shadai Goibab had realized the importance of glossary. He was not from the science background, but still he had created so many words. He had attempted so many words and he had translated into Konkani. And those translations prove that Konkani is so flexible that we can have words from different branches of knowledge into Konkani. Recently in Goa we had workshops to translate glossaries from English to Konkani in the subject of electronics, mathematics and many other subjects. And to your surprise, let me tell you, as Palia said it just now, with the help of the group from subject expert, language expert, expert from Sanskrit and a linguist there in such workshops, we could translate every word. There was no difficulty at all. Giving a Konkani, Konkani style to it, Konkani, identity to that word. Also, we could do it. Like Shadai Goibab had done it that time. Amoeba, he had given the word bodlo, the one which changes again and again its form. So animal kingdom, he had said jivaval, beautiful words he had coined. For embryo, he had said gab. Gravitational pull, he had said zarsanichi od. Likewise, he had translated many words during his time. Now it's time to go for many types of glossaries in Konkani. The audience which is sitting may be from different backgrounds. Some of you might have some science background, some of you might have some commerce background, or have some at least liking in different fields like science, commerce. So you can take up one glossary each, like what Palia has said. And the way they have given the instruction, these are the self-instructions which have to be followed everywhere in creation of all the dictionaries. With these instructions, what she has given, or they have laid down during that workshop, we have to create glossaries in a uniform way. And I think DOL will be very pleased to publish such exercises. Botany, zoology, anthropology. We can name the subject, we can take up the work, identify around 2,500 to 3,000 words and start doing that exercise. And maybe it is completed in a year or 2 years, so that we could publish around 30-40 minimum sort of glossaries in a given year. There are many subjects, like there are new subjects like artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. So they have their own terminology, which we should get into Konkani also. Then we should have, as Professor Udaya also has said, dictionary of dialects, which we don't have as yet. It's very important. All of you must be coming from different parts of Goa, speaking a different dialect at your home. So you should come out with a dictionary of your own dialect. May it be very small. Typical words used in your particular dialect. Maybe 700 words, 800 words, 1000 words. You come out with that. And then, with the help of all these dictionary of dialects, we can come out with a Bruhat Kosh of Konkani, all inclusive, where we will not say together means only Wangda. We will say together means Wangda, Sangatak, Barabar, Barobar, and so many other words combinations which are available in the dialects of Konkani. That should be our spirit. And now with the theoretical background which the keynote address we have heard and all the sessions which we have heard since yesterday, it is now our duty to take up such work in the time to come with this help of Holy Kosh and also a Pradeshik Kosh, meaning we can say Shekkam Tencho Kosh, Nuste Pakpencho Kosh, Renderancho Kosh, Padeliacho Kosh, the terminology which all these professions use while carrying out their profession. All such, Kosh we should have, and then Konkani will be enriched. Today's Konkani has maximum word limit of say 35,000 in the given maybe of Damodar Ganekar or any other dictionary. With the help of all these dialects, the glossaries of dialects, glossaries of professions, we can take it up to 1.5 to 2 lakhs. Definitely, I am very much sure about that. Because many words are missing in the present dictionaries which we found. They are used by people, but they are not recorded. They are not, documented in the form of a particular entry. If Dio Griber can, on its own, prepare a dictionary of 13,300 words in the 17th century, can't we take it as a challenge to create a dictionary of 1.5 to 2 lakhs words in Konkani in the years to come? I think that is the outcome of this seminar, that all of us, be committed for that cause. And we should thank all the paper readers, including Professor Udaya Narayan Singh ji, who has given some insights into our own language, what we can do for our language. With these words, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to chair the session. I declare that the session is over.
अब हम सत्र के अंतिम पड़ाव पर हैं। आज का यह सत्र काफी ज्ञानवर्धक तथा प्रभावशाली रहा है, जिसके लिए अध्यक्ष तथा वक्ताओं को बधाई एवं अभिनंदन। अनुवाद तथा अनुसंधान के क्षेत्र में वैचारिक योगदान के लिए आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब मैं डेप्यूटी डायरेक्टर ऑफ ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज अनिल सावंत जी से निवेदन करता हूं कि वे अध्यक्ष तथा वक्ताओं को स्मृति चिन्ह देकर उनका सम्मान करें। वक्ता अदिति बुडकुले मैम और आज की अंतिम वक्ता डॉक्टर पलिया पंडित मैम। अंततः सभागार में उपस्थित शिक्षकगण तथा विद्यार्थियों, आप सभी का धन्यवाद। आज का यह तीसरा सत्र यहीं पर समाप्त होता है। धन्यवाद।